Welcome back, everybody. Jesse here for 3Prong Gaming, and in today's episode, we should have enough time to be able to get our NPC to run to the building, which we did in the last episode, but to actually do the construction when he gets there. So, and if we have multiple NPC at the construction site, it will cut the time in half for each one we have. All right, so yeah, let's go ahead and get this started so we make sure we have enough time. Alright, so in the last episode, like I said, we set it up to where our NPC will run to the construction site. Before we get started here, I've been noticing some weird things. I don't know, because like I've told you guys before, I've got a copy that I do in preparation for the video. I've got multiple copies of this, and that way I can kind of have a cheat sheet and know what I'm doing for the episode. But I've been noticing in my working one that I do here, there's some things that are different that I could have swore I've done before that are set in the other one that aren't set in this one. So hopefully, just double check your stuff, because if I didn't do this on camera, then I don't know. Then sorry for repeating myself, but for whatever reason, my working copy, I call this one my working copy, is got some weird stuff. For some reason here, the sphere is set to block all dynamic. It's not like that on my cheat sheet. I need to set that to no collisions. Yeah, I don't know. That's really kind of weird. Compile and save that. That's on the camera pawn, the sphere for the camera pawn. And then the other thing here that we need to do real fast, I could have swore, like I said, this is set. I don't remember setting this the other day. We need to set right here, because our time, I moved these variables, these time variables, into its own category. But time unit, we don't set this. It's set at 0. So if you were to place one of our buildings into the world and not change, it'll update when we adjust the time, when we click the button to change the game speed. But it has no initial value. So if you were just to start the game and place a building into the world and not change the game time, the construction would never complete. But like I said, this is set on my cheat sheet one, but for whatever reason, it's not set here. I don't have the function. So going to my game state, we need to create a new function really fast. Like I said, I'm sorry. I would do this off camera, but I don't know if I did this on camera or not. So I don't want to skip this step in case for some reason I screwed up. But make a new function in your game state called get current time unit. Hit that, and then all we're going to do is we're going to take our time unit right here, get it, and then we're going to return a value here. We'll call it time unit, make it of type float, and just plug this in. This is going to eat up a little bit of extra time that I didn't really anticipate for this video, so I know I will end up running a few minutes longer. So now we got that in the game states. Now go back into your construction proxy and grab your reference to your game state, assuming that this isn't already set in yours. Pull off get current time unit, plug that in here, and then then we need to set our time unit. This is at the begin play here of our construction proxy. And then we just need to set our time unit to this value right there. This is like the second time I've recorded this episode. Hopefully it'll be the last time we have to record it. But yeah, I started noticing a lot of weird stuff that should have been there. All right, so now we should be able to get right on with what we need to do. Back in our behavior tree here, right, we've got a few things extra we got to do. Remember, he has a random weight right here. Then he assigns, if there's a building, it'll assign work construction. If not, it'll jump back up here. It'll keep bouncing between these two until there's a building you place on the world. Then when it does, he'll move to that job site, and that's it. That's all we've got right at this point. So now we need a way for our construction proxy to know that, delete that. That's not supposed to be there. For that to know that we have somebody there. So in our do work right now, like I said, we just placed it into the world, and it will automatically just construct. It doesn't care if anybody's there or not. So now we need a way to be able to figure that out. So that variable I just deleted, we're going to need that. We're going to need to create that here in just a second. Let's create a new function. Let's call this get workforce. Okay. And in this get workforce, what we need to do is we need a new variable. It was the one I just deleted. It's called active workers. I am cold. My fingers are like, my body is pretty stiff right now. So sorry about that if I seem a little off today. So this needs to be of MPC BP reference, and we will make it an array. Okay, and so go ahead and drag this in now. Get it. We need to check its length. And that's all we're going to do. We're going to return this length, but we're going to return it here on the output as, we'll call this active workers, and we'll make it of a type float. It returns an integer, but we're going to convert it to a float because that's how we're going to use it. So we need it as a float. So we might as well just convert it here so we don't have to convert it multiple times every time we call this get workforce. All right. So hopefully that should be it for this function. So go ahead and compile and save that. Let's go ahead and actually, let's make this a pure function. I usually forget that. I didn't forget that this time. So now close that out. We should not need that again. So in our do work, in our construction proxy, go ahead and get our workforce. All right. First things first, we need to make sure that we even have an active workforce. All right. So let's run a branch in here. And true, let's just hook up the true right now. What we need to do is we need to grab this. Remember, this is the length of our active worker variable. And we just need to make sure it is greater than 0. If it is, then it's going to be true. And then we want to run this function. We want to actually do some work. If not, we're not going to have anything. So let's just pull off this. We'll do a return node just so we don't get a little note in there. All right, so now if it is true, what we need to do is we need to calculate how many workers we have and figure our time unit based off that. So let's say we have one worker and our building is set for 1 hour construction time. If we have one worker, well, it's going to continue. This will be, say our default value is 150 because we're at normal speed. 150 is our value. One worker, this is going to continue to be 150, so it'll take an hour to do it. If we have 2 workers, it's going to take our current time unit and divide that by 2. 3 workers can divide it by 3. So in our case of an hour to construct it, if we have 2 workers, it's only going to take a half hour. If we have 3 workers, it's going to take 20 minutes. If we have 4 workers, it's going to take 15 minutes. All right. So the way to do that is we just drag off of, actually, let's do our time unit divided by float. Okay, move that up there, and then take our workforce. Remember, that's a length. That's how many active workers we have. And then just plug the divide into the time unit right there. So that is it for that. Really, that's all we got to do to be able to calculate how many workers we have in the workforce. So now our building will not construct unless we have somebody there. So now how do we know if somebody's here? We have to be able to assign workers now to the job site. Okay, so jump back out here to the event graph. And in the do work, what we need to do, we need to create a new function. We need to be able, like I said, we need to be able to add people here. Let's call this one report to shift. We're going to use this variable down the road, but what we need to do is we need to be able to add people to our active workforce. So for our input, let's go ahead and call this workers, or we'll just call it worker, singular, and we'll make it MPC BP reference. All right, so now drag off your array of active workers and do add. Plug this in, and then this worker that we're going to pass from here will be added to the array. And that's it. Return, close out this function here, and that's it for that. All right, so now we have a way to be able to assign workers here. So now let's figure out a place to actually report to shift. Well, I think the most logical place to report to shift is after we move to the job site. Okay, so back in our behavior tree, first thing first, for our parallels, simple parallel right here. We need to run a decorator on this just to be safe. So add a decorator, and we will just use a regular blackboard. I believe that's the one we have in there. Yeah, regular blackboard. Select the decorator. Let's change its name real quick to, come on, has target location. So if for some reason between here and here, the target location variable right here disappears, we don't want to move to site. Okay, so we only want to do this if we actually have a target location. So what we need to do is for the blackboard key selector, go ahead and select target location, and we want to make sure that it is checked. The key query, is it set? Right. So if there's a value in here, then we will move to job site. Okay. So now we need to create a new task. So go ahead and select this and create a blueprint base. Right. There we go. We got our new one here, but let's go back out to here and let's rename this to T_report to shift. Okay. So let's jump back into our report to shift. We need a receive execute AI. Okay, so let's jump back here really quick to make this simple. Open up our move to job site, select our reference cast, Control C, move back here and Control V. Let's go ahead and rename this. Just remove the underscore and the number 2. Hook all this up. And then we need to go in and set our variables inside the reference cast. So create variable controller, create variable pawn, and there we go. We've got that now. So what we need to do in this task here is we need to check, or we need to get our current location. All right. So we'll call this current location. We need to make it a blackboard key selector. Okay, and we're going to also need our target location, and of course make sure that these are editable. So go ahead and pull in our current location. Now what we need to do is we need to get blackboard value as object. Okay, now if you remember, current location is a building, right? We're only setting this when we're going to a building. So we need to run off of this, and we need to cast to construction proxy BP. Right click that. Let's go ahead and make that a pure cast. Okay, so now we got that. What we need to do with this, though, before we execute anything, we need to make sure that this is a valid location. So go ahead and pull off do is valid. We're going to do the one with the question mark right here so we don't have to run a branch, because the branch is run inside this macro here and conveniently gives us is valid and is not valid. So if it is valid, because for some reason, like I said, it just got to double check and make sure things are, happening here, because what if it happens to the construction completes right as he gets to that location, right? So we just need to double check and make sure that the location is valid. So what we need to do is we need to take off of our construction proxy pin that we just cast to here and do report to shift, that variable that we just created, or the function that we just created there. So is it valid? Yes. We want to report to shift. Well, we need a worker. So our worker will be the pawn. So just go ahead and grab this pawn, drag it in and drop it right there. Okay. So now another thing we need to do here, let's look at the behavior tree real fast. And even with this report shift, we have it adding, adding to the report to shift. So he's going to go into that array and be calculated for construction time. But as it is right now, the way it's set up is it's always going to loop. This is always going to loop. And so he's going to be this same instance of the character is going to go in multiple times. Every time this wait is done and it executes this branch, it's going to add him again and again. So if we have multiple 2 or 3 in there, we're going to end up with a really big, large amount of players. So we got to be able to we got to have a way to be able to stop this execution. So what we got to do is we got to check, is the pawn, is the NPC, is he busy? Well, if he is, we don't want to execute. So we need to add a decorator here. Go add decorator and do actually no, we don't need to do that. We need to go into our blackboard. I forgot I changed this, how I was doing this. We need a boolean, and we will call this is busy. I forgot I had another way I was doing this, and this is actually the cleaner way. I stopped using booleans when I was first learning my AI. I stopped using booleans here as a key because I was having issues with it, but I figured it out. It was obviously the issues were with me and not with the system itself. So, but I figured it out. All right, so we got is busy right here. So what we need to do is just right click on assign work construction, add decorator. We need to add another blackboard decorator right here. So let's go ahead and select that real quick. Let's change the name to is busy. And what we need to do, blackboard key, change that to is busy. Now the way variables go, or booleans go in the blackboard, is when it's true, it's got to think, well, I'll show you in a minute, but when you set it true, you've got a checkbox, right? So that means it is set. When it's false, it is not set. So what we want to make sure is that it is not set, meaning it is false and he is not busy. So that would then let this code execute. But if he is busy, well, we don't want to assign any work to him if he's already assigned work. He's already busy. So that's what that's going to do. Okay, so let's jump back into, let's save that real quick. Jump back into our report to shift task. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to add another variable here, another key selector. We'll call this is busy. Make sure it's editable, and it's already defaulted to a key selector. So drag this in, get it. Now we need to set value, blackboard value as bool. Okay, because remember we're reporting to shift, so now we need to tell the behavior tree that he's busy. So see, check mark, that means it's set. We're setting that value. Okay, so yeah, and that's pretty much it. That'll work. But one thing I like to do is when they go to start construction, when they go into a building, we need to make them invisible, make it look like they actually went inside the building. So we will do set actor hidden in game right here under rendering. Select that. Okay, plug that in. Sometimes you may not want to do this right away for debugging purposes, but we're going to set him new hidden true. We want him hidden. Okay, so now, and the reason why I was going to set target location to be removed in here, but we don't want to do that because I'll show you in just a minute of why we didn't clear this target location yet. But now that he's here and he started construction, now we need to clear this variable, right? He's already at his target location, so now we can clear it. And I'll show you here just in a minute when we're done with this task why we don't set that, or why we don't clear that value as soon as he gets to his location. All right, finish, execute, and true. So we ran this branch, so if he made it to this point, he was successful. So that's perfect. That's what we want to do. All right, so now if this is not valid, go ahead and pull off of here. Actually, grab our target location and get it. Now all we need to do, if it's not valid, we need to just do some house cleaning. We need to clear everything out. So we need to clear our target location here. We need to ensure that is busy. Let's go ahead and set value as bool. We need to make sure is busy is not set. So make sure that that is false. And then that is it for that. So go ahead and finish execute. And it failed. So we don't want to check that as success. So that is it. Let me explain this to you again real fast. We got a reference cast right here, but we take our current location, blackboard value as object, make sure it is valid. If it is valid, we cast to a construction proxy BP, pull off of that, we grab our report shift function that we made where it adds the pawn or the worker to the variable inside of our construction proxy to be able to calculate for construction time. Then we tell the Blackboard that, hey, we are busy, so don't let us do anything else right at this point. And then we hide our actor in the game so we don't see it, makes it look like he goes in. Then we clear our target location and finish execute. If it's not valid, target location, we clear it, is busy, we clear it, finish execute, fail. All right, so now, like I said, back in the behavior tree, let's drag off of this and do report to shift. Right, let's go ahead and rename this. I probably should have did that earlier. Report to shift. Should probably made that the default name for it. Set as current location to current location. It's target location to target, and is busy to is busy. All right, so now the reason why I mentioned we don't clear out our target location here is because we don't want to run this every single time. So we need a decorator on here. We need to make sure that he is, and actually delete that. We don't want the Blackboard. Right click, decorator is at location. Okay, so we need to make sure that he is there before we can execute this. So now the Blackboard key that we're checking is target location. So this is a self-made decorator. It comes default with the behavior tree. Is at location. That's pretty much it. Is he at this target location? So if he is, then go ahead and run report to shift, and then inside report to shift, we'll clear out target location. So yeah, I believe that's it for the behavior tree. Yeah, that looks like that's it for the behavior tree. Let's see. Let me double check and see what else we've got, if anything. All right, and of course, no, that's not it. We need to go back into our construction proxy here, and we need a way to, we've already got a way for them to report to shift. Well, what happens when construction completes, right? We need a way for them to leave the construction site so he's no longer busy and he can continue about his day. So let's go ahead and create a new function. Let's go ahead and call this one construction complete. Probably could use better name spacing. We've got an event dispatcher here called construction completed, and I'm naming this one construction complete. Yeah, I should. Best practices, I really should set that differently, but I'm not going to. You can and probably should, you know, and I know I should be teaching you guys good habits, but I like to be bad every now and then. All right, what we need to do is, and I don't know why I'm dragging that in right at this point, I don't need that yet. What we need to do is we need to check our workforce. We need to make sure that we've got a workforce before we even run this. So let's do a greater than, drop in a branch real fast. And yeah, I've already done this section a couple times because the editor crashed on me. So, and I lost some work, so I had to come back and re-record this. But fortunately, I didn't have to re-record the entire episode. So yeah, anyways, let's go ahead, and now we need our active workers. If we do have a workforce here, we need to take our active workers. Now we need to loop through it. So we get a for each loop, not the one with the break, just the regular for each loop, and set it to the true. So if we've got a workforce and we want to run this loop, and that's, what the heck is going on here? Is my keyboard messing up? I think my keyboard's messing up. Okay. So we've got this here. So what we need to do now is we've got what this array element is it's an MPC blueprint. Okay. So what we need to do is we need to tell the Blackboard and the behavior tree that we're no longer busy. We're done with our construction. We're no longer busy. So give us something else to do. Well, the problem is we don't have access in our construction proxy for our Blackboard or behavior tree. We don't even have it here on our MPC blueprint because the only thing that has access to the Blackboard is the AI controller. So what we need to do is in our MPC blueprint, let's go ahead and get access to, like I said, I created this already once and it saved this. We need to get access to our AI controller. So I created this variable before it crashed and I had to start this section over again and I just didn't delete it. Call it AI controller ref, make it MPC AI controller and set it to its own category called references. Okay, so what we need to do off the begin play of our MPC blueprint is we need to right click and select get AI controller. It's a little bit different than getting the player controller, but still pretty easy in itself. So now it needs a controlled actor. So the actor that the AI that we want is ourself. So just go ahead and drop in a self, plug that into there. And off of this is just giving us our generic AI controller. So we need to cast this to the MPC AI controller. Right click. Let's go ahead and convert this to a pure cast. And drag in our AI controller reference, Alt, set it to this reference right here. Okay. So now we've got access to our AI controller. So let's go ahead and create a new function now. Let's do this set is busy. All right, we need an input here. This is where it crashed on me last time, was right here. Call it is busy. Leave it as type boolean. So that way we know if we need to set if the MPC is busy or not. So what we need to do, drag our AI controller reference in here, get it. We need, sorry, I had to grab my cheat sheet there. We need drag off of this and get Blackboard. Okay, this will get the active Blackboard that the controller is using. Okay, we don't need to cast anything. It automatically knows which one it's doing, but we don't have specific use. So we don't have all those variables we specifically set in the Blackboard. But let's go ahead and set value as bool, because remember, is busy is a boolean. Okay, so plug this in. Like I said, we can't cast out of this Blackboard. It just grabs the active one. So it's a generic brand here. So what we need to do is we need a key name right here. And unlike in here in our tasks where we have Blackboard key selectors, we don't have access to those out here. Even though you can set a variable out here called Blackboard key selector of a type Blackboard key selector, it's not going to work. Okay, this right here needs a name type variable. So let's go ahead and create a new variable. We'll just call this is busy, right? We'll make it of type name and compile it so we have access to its default right here. Call this, and now the name needs to be exactly the same as you named it in your Blackboard. So go back into your Blackboard. We set is busy, camel case, no spaces, capital I, capital B. So it needs to be exactly that for it to be able to find it. Set that into your default value of that variable. Now drag that and just put that into the key name. And the value we want to set it to is whatever we pass to it, true or false. So whenever we call this function, we'll let it know what to set that value as. And that's it. So go ahead and pull off this. Let's do a return node on that. All right. And compile it and save it. We don't get that error anymore. And that should be good enough for setting is busy. All right. So now we can go back to our construction proxy. Now, off of our array element, we could do set is busy. We've got access to that function. Drop that in there, hook it up to the loop body. So remember, construction is completed. So we're done with construction. So for every worker we have in here, we set is busy to false. All right. And then the one last thing we need to do in here is set actor hidden in game. Now we want to make them visible. So now we just leave this as false as well. Okay, new hidden, no, false, done. Okay, so and that is it for that. We need to go down to the bottom here to the false or to the completed, and just do a what we need to do. We need to take our active worker right here, and we need to set it. All right, plug that into the completed there, but we can't just leave this blank. This won't clear out the array. This isn't how you clear out array. So what you got to do is you got to do make array and then leave this make array empty. And now our active workers will be an empty list. Perfect. Drag off that, do a return node. We need another one down here in the false so we don't get a note on there. And then that's it for this. So do we have a workforce? Yes, good. Go through the active workforce list, run our set busy function that we have on the MPC, make sure that they are no longer busy, make sure they actively become visible, and that is it for that one. So now back out in the event graph, now we need to call that. So now we call our call construction completed here, which runs the finished construction on our construction manager. So now we need to grab our local function that we just created here, construction complete, plug that in. You could name that, I think before in one of my other ones, I called it like leave, but I had to change the name of it because we're actually going to have a couple different functions where the worker can leave the job site not only when construction is completed, but say they're hungry or tired or whatever and they want to leave. So I changed the name of it to construction completed. But so yeah, like I said, that should be it. Cross your fingers. We're what, 31 minutes into it, just over 31 minutes into it. Not too bad considering I've had some snafus in this, but some foo bars. But I think we got it. Control S, save everything. Cross your fingers. Let's go ahead and move this off to the side a little bit. Press play. And let's move this off to the side a little bit. Let's jump back into our behavior tree. This way we can watch and see what's going on. Nice thing about this is we can see all our values as we get playing here. So let's go ahead and slide this over a little bit more. All right, let's drop in an NPC, grab the apartment. Now this should only take a half hour for it to construct. He goes up there, he got there at 6:10, so he should be done by 6:40. All right, approaching it here. You can see, dang it, come on. There it is. Done, 6:40. All right, trying to move down here. Now you notice is busy has switched to false. Okay, so it took a half hour to do that. So let's go ahead and test this again. Let's grab, let's actually drop in another NPC. So now if we run the apartment again, it took a half hour with one guy. So now it should only take 15 minutes. So go ahead and drop that in there. He runs there, he runs there. So now it should be done by 7:15. Let's go ahead and check to see if that's going to be the case. All right, so there it is, 7:15, awesome. So that works. So now everyone we have in there, like I said, we can keep adding people to it. Eventually, we're going to have a limit to it. Really, probably only be allowing 4 people to work on a construction building. Yeah, so that's it. That works. So awesome. I'm super happy. 33 minutes into this. Considering I had a couple problems, had to go back and set a few things. Like I said, I don't know. That really is pretty weird how. I was missing those things because I don't know. I don't understand the logic of that. So yeah, as always, even with my snafus, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Hope you guys learned something from it, even with yeah, all my mistakes. It wasn't too bad. It wasn't as bad as the other episode. So as always, thank you. Check out one of those other videos playing on the screen. Hit that like button, subscribe, blah blah blah. Till next time, peace.